Welcome back to the battlefield, Guardians. Zeus here. Byrna may be carrying one of the most dangerous scaling mechanics we have seen in a while. If you want to understand where her real power comes from and why the right support can turn her into a nightmare, stay with me. Today we're going to break down Byrna, but this time I want to start from a different angle. Usually, I begin with the ultimate skill, but today I want to open with her violet skill, Living Heart, because once you understand this skill, everything else about Byrna starts to make much more sense. Living Heart says that every time an ally restores health, Byrna's magic attack increases by 544 until the end of the battle. So first, let's understand exactly how this skill works, and after that, we'll look at how it scales and why it can become so dangerous in the right setup. The main thing to understand here is very simple, but also very important. Every single time an ally gets healed, Byrna gains 544 magic attack. In my case, that number is 544 because my Byrna is not 6-star yet, so this value may change once I max her out. But the mechanic itself is already very clear. It does not matter how much healing is restored. It can be a huge heal of 100,000, or it can be a tiny heal of just 100. The amount does not matter here. What matters is the healing trigger itself. Every separate instance of healing gives Byrna another stack of magic attack. And this is where the skill starts to become very interesting. In the footage, you can clearly see that even the smallest healing ticks are counted. Every tiny bit of restored health is recognized as healing, and every one of those healing moments increases Byrna's magic attack stat again and again. So this is not about one massive burst of healing. This is about frequency. The more often healing happens, the more often Byrna keeps stacking power. That is exactly why this skill is so important for her whole kit. All three of Byrna's other skills are based on her magic attack. That means Living Heart is not just a passive bonus sitting in the background. It is the engine that keeps empowering everything else she does. As long as Byrna stays alive on the battlefield and her allies continue receiving healing, her magic attack keeps rising. And when that magic attack rises, the damage and impact of her other skills rise with it. So the real goal with Byrna is not just to keep the team alive. The goal is to turn healing into scaling. Every heal makes her stronger, and every extra stack pushes her attacks to a more dangerous level. If the battle lasts long enough and the healing is constant enough, Byrna can reach absurd amounts of magic attack. At that point, her damage can become so high that she is capable of deleting enemy heroes with a single hit. That is why healers are naturally some of Byrna's best allies. The first healer I tested with her was Hus, and there is a very clear reason for that. Hus does small healing, but he does it very often. And for Byrna, that is exactly what you want. Small healing repeated again and again is much more valuable for this mechanic than one big burst that happens rarely. But of course, this is not limited to Hus. Other healers can work too. Even Maya can support this concept. In general, any hero that can repeatedly trigger healing can become useful for Byrna. That also includes things like vampirism, because vampirism creates more healing triggers as well. The real point is not the source of healing. The point is how often that healing is happening. Now, there is another detail here that becomes very important, and this is also the reason why my earlier idea about Byrna having strong synergy with Mushy and Shroom now looks even more logical. Before, I already mentioned that Byrna and Mushy and Shroom could work very well together. But now, after seeing how Living Heart functions, the reason behind that synergy is much clearer. Mushy and Shroom can create copies, and they also create spore mushrooms. For those units to fully engage in battle, they need to heal up first and then join in. And this changes the entire battlefield around Byrna. Suddenly, Byrna is not surrounded by only the standard group of allies. Now there are extra units on the field. You have the mushy copies, and you also have the spore mushrooms. And every one of those units can contribute to healing activity. So instead of Byrna benefiting only from the healing of 4 regular allies, now she has even more units constantly involved in this cycle. 2 more copies, 9 more spore mushrooms, and all the tiny healing happening around them can push Byrna's magic attack extremely high. This is what makes the synergy feel so explosive. It is not just that Mushy and Shroom add bodies on the field. It is that those extra bodies create more healing moments, and every one of those moments keeps feeding Living Heart. And that is the key idea. For Byrna to scale her magic attack efficiently, you do not only need healing. You also want more allies on the battlefield and more frequent healing triggers. That is much better than relying on one big burst heal from time to time. Frequent, repeated healing is what really unlocks the skill. Even the War Flag of Vanguard helps with this concept. It restores health every 4 seconds, and that means it keeps adding more healing triggers into the battle. That may not sound massive at first, but for Byrna, every extra healing source matters. Every additional trigger supports her mission of building more and more magic attack throughout the fight. Now that the mechanic is clear, let's move to the second part and take a look at how this skill scales. This skill is based on Byrna's health stat, which means it can scale further if you increase her health. That gives us another important layer to think about. Living Heart is already strong because of how often it can trigger, but if the skill itself also grows from higher health, then building Byrna correctly becomes even more important. At the moment, there are only a few ways to push Byrna's health higher. One option is the health pattern. Another one is the Foundry, which increases the health stat of heroes deployed in that building. These are currently some of the main ways to improve that part of her scaling. On top of that, Byrna's first skill, her ultimate, also increases her health additionally, but I will go deeper into that in upcoming content because that deserves its own proper breakdown. I tested Aiden with Byrna as well, but there is another issue there. Byrna does not have high armor and she does not have high magic defense, so right now she is not reliable enough to be placed in front as a tank. At this stage, she is still too vulnerable for that kind of role. Maybe that changes later when she becomes more developed, but for now, that is not where she looks comfortable. And this brings us to one more interesting conclusion. Based on how this skill works, the new battlefield for Byrna may be City Hall and especially Foundry in Clash of Worlds. Foundry is very important because it helps boost the health stat of deployed heroes, and since Living Heart scales with health, that makes the mode even more relevant for her. So this is not just a skill that looks strong in normal battles. It may also point us toward where Byrna can become especially dangerous depending on the game mode and the available stat boosts. So the more I test Byrna, the clearer the picture becomes. Living Heart is not just a simple violet skill. It is the foundation of her entire scaling. It rewards frequent healing, it becomes stronger with more allies on the field, and it gets even better when supported by health scaling. And once all of that starts working together, Byrna stops looking like a normal damage dealer and starts looking like a hero that can snowball completely out of control. So that is what makes Byrna so dangerous. The more healing your team triggers, the more magic attack she builds, and that means her entire kit keeps getting stronger as the battle goes on. With the right healing support, Byrna can scale into a real monster. Let me know in the comments what you think about Byrna, and which team you want to test her in. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, so you don't miss the next one. Salute and friendship, and remember, the better you understand the mechanics, the stronger you become in Dominion.